Another question, moving on to a different subject. Someone was asking what the best way is to capture vertical video for podcasting. How do they capture vertical video from the podcast for use on like Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, things like that? There's a few different ways you can do this. If you plan to be cutting a lot of clips from your podcast for use on specifically those platforms where vertical video is prioritized, you obviously want to think about framing when you're recording your podcast in the first place. Like when I cut clips, I'm able to kind of cut myself out of this frame here, and it seems to work. If you're super close to the camera and then you try to crop that out, you're just going to have a big face right in the center of it. And you're not going to have a whole lot of flexibility to maybe zoom in or zoom out. So you want to think first about how you're framed when you're recording the show. For the best quality, you would want to try to record in a higher resolution. So when you post to Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, the resolution of those videos is typically 1080 by 1920. So 1920 by 1080 is kind of the standard wide format you see on YouTube. 1820 by 1080. So many numbers. 1080 by 1920 is kind of the vertical standard, at least for now. If you're shooting in 4K, which is 3840 by 2160, then your vertical is already longer than 20. Okay. This is so, okay. 1080 by 1920. It's 1,920 pixels tall. If you shoot in 4K, even wide, you have 3840 by 2160. So even at 100%, if you're using 4K footage, a widescrreen 4K footage, and you're putting that in a vertical 1080 by 1920 timeline, you're still getting 100% quality and resolution. In other words, if you were to take a clip that you filmed at 1920 by 1080 and then tried to turn that on its side and then put that in a 1080 by 1920 frame, well, now you have all this space and you have to zoom in that footage to 150%, whatever the ratio is, but you have to zoom it in order for it to completely fill the frame. And as you do that, you lose a little bit of quality. Now, recording in 4K is kind of optimal, 4K or greater. That's obviously optimal if you want to maintain that sharpness and that video quality. However, there's been plenty of videos that I did initially before I started recording into an Atomos Mini, when I only used to record at 1920 by 1080 in OBS. There were clips that I posted to TikTok and Instagram Reels that I edited together using the 1080p footage, and it looks fine. Like, there's really nothing wrong with it. You can zoom it in, and most people flipping through their phone aren't going to pixel peep that much. They're not going to notice. They're not going to care that you zoomed in a little bit on some lower resolution footage. But again, that's when framing is important, because you want to make sure that you're framing in a way to where even if you are using 1080p footage, you can place that footage into a tall video frame and be able to zoom it in and frame it up to where everything still fits in the frame the way that you wanted. And then the other thing you could do is just use a second camera. Put a little mount on the camera that you currently have, and maybe a little arm. It could just even be your phone. You could find a way to mount your phone right next to your camera, maybe right next to the camera lens. And on your phone, you're filming vertically, and on your main camera, you're filming horizontally. Whatever works for you, it's another option. It might not work for you if you're someone who talks into the camera like I do, because then you wouldn't be talking into the vertical camera. I don't know. Just think about your situation, whatever works for you. But those are a few options if you want to capture vertical video to use on those platforms.